Welcome to Construction Genius. Great episode today, all about marketing. Your mind's going to be blown in the first 30 seconds by my guest, Rob Murray from Intrigue Media. And I know my mind was blown. I had an assumption that turned out to be wrong, and Rob explains why that was wrong. In addition, we take a deep look into how to identify your niche, the difference between vertical and horizontal positioning, how to speak to both noobs who are buying your construction services and the experienced construction managers and architects who are checking you out. And you will leave with 2 moves you can make before lunch to get killer testimonials, identify your most profitable niche, and make sure that you're creating a website that is all about your clients and what they're looking for, and not all about you and the services that you provide. And you may think, hold on, Eric, isn't that what my website's all about, me and my services? Well, listen to today's episode and you might get a new perspective. Let's dive right in. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Rob, welcome to Construction Genius.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
Yes, my pleasure. Commercial construction is not something that people are generally Googling for. Someone doesn't have a $50 million project and say, hey, let me look on the internet and see if I can find a guy. With that in mind, considering the audience of Construction Genius, what's the real purpose of a company's website and content when it's not really there to generate like an instant lead?
Yeah, great question. It's interesting, though. So I'm going to answer the question. Before I do, there was a fundamental assumption that was placed into the question that people don't Google looking for $50 million contractors.
Yeah,
That's wrong.
Okay.
If you look at search volume for branded search terms, meaning I know the name of the business I'm looking for, or I have a service that's required for like a large scale municipal bridge project, as an example, people actually do look for this. And the search volume for the entire United States of America or Canada or all of North America is actually quite robust. And then obviously, as you get more localized, it becomes smaller. The fascinating piece, though, with the way you mentioned it, is that most entrepreneurs and marketers within those organizations believe what you said. And so it actually creates a really neat window of opportunity because very few people are actually trying to go after those searches at all.
Okay.
Now,
Yep.
that aside, the question that you asked about a website and generating leads, whether it's inbound marketing or digital marketing or print marketing or direct marketing or network marketing, however you want to describe marketing, without strategy, it's all shit. And so a website as a media is completely correlated in terms of effectiveness with how well it's strategically lined up. So if I were to cold call somebody and say, hey, Eric, how are you doing? I want to tell you about my business and why you should buy from me. The odds of that approach working is close to zero. If I were to switch that around and say, hey, Eric, it sounds like I caught you at a bad time. You say, no, I'm good. Okay. I'm like, my name's Rob calling from this company, Intrigue. I'm not sure if you've heard of us before. No. Do you mind if I take 30 seconds to tell you why I called and then you can decide if we should keep talking? To get that start moving. And then I say, typically people working with us have these problems, but I'm not sure if those issues relate to you, do they? That approach is effective. And with volume can work really well. The point with websites, though, is a lot of people don't necessarily understand strategy. If you ask people what strategy means, you get many different definitions. And I think if we get that right, a website can become quite meaningful, not only for the sake of a visitor, but also for the sake of the organization.
Ask you this then. When you say marketing, what is marketing? What is your definition of marketing?
So it's vast, but on the surface, I'm going to say marketing is about half of it's about making a promise and half of it's about delivering that promise. Now, that's vague. And as you go deeper into that definition, I believe marketing done right is to become clear on how we solve problems for humans and help them understand that we're there to support them. It's a little bit more clear. But then if you look at like a lot of people, I think, confuse marketing and advertising, because I think marketing is about strategic positioning and clarity of customer and customer problems that the organization solves. There's a whole reason as to why marketing is typically all messed up. Advertising is the method of which we inform strangers or people that know us that we're here. And then there's other pieces to that. You get into promotion and public relations. And
so going back to your earlier point that when you push back on the premise that I put out there that people aren't Googling for $50 million projects, let's assume that what you're saying is correct. Then the purpose of my website is to make a promise and then talk about how we have delivered that promise for other people.
That is definitely a good part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing people forget too is that if I don't Google, but I do know of somebody or someone refers me to somebody because they did some project that I want to do and it went well, they're still going to look you up online. And if they've been referred to people and one website is clear, well articulated, very problem oriented, saying these are the problems people have, and here's why those problems can suck for you, and this is how we've helped others solve that problem, and listen to what they said about the experience, it'll reinforce word of mouth. It actually takes friction out of word of mouth.
So then on a website, would you advise someone to lead with the specific problems of their target markets, let's say on the homepage?
Yes, with a caveat that we need to understand the problems people have and whether they know they have them.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So some people think their problem is they don't know who to hire for a certain job. Some people don't necessarily understand that who they hire has a bunch of potentially unintended consequences that will like maybe impact their life personally. And so we need to understand too, like, are we talking to experienced people? And if you peel all that away as a business, you say, I know who I want to work with. I understand them very well. I understand the problems they have, and I understand what they're trying to accomplish. It's either the problems that they're trying to solve or the dream outcome or solution state that they want to be in. It needs to be front and center above the fold when someone lands on your website. And you can do either one. One can be the aspirational outcome, or one needs to be the core issue.
Okay. Now, when it comes to purchasing commercial construction services, you have a wide variety of people. So for instance, you have someone who's going to do one project once in their life and they're inexperienced and a lot of hand-holding. They might have another buyer who does multiple projects and is very sophisticated and savvy. They might have a construction manager representing an owner contacting them. With that said, in the realm of commercial construction, how do I structure my message so that I'm speaking to all of those potential clients? Or do I rather say, I want to speak to one particular buyer and trust that the message that I'm communicating to them will attract the other types of buyers that may be interested in my service also?
Yeah, really cool question. And I love the way you framed it. So I look at it like a spectrum, like of niching. So on one spectrum is full service commercial construction for all things, for all people. And there are a lot of companies like that have positioned themselves to be everything to everybody.
Right.
The opposite is like, we build bridges between 300 and 1,500 feet. That's it. That's all we do.
Yep.
And we travel all around the continent building those bridges because we're the specialist of it.
Yes.
There's a in between, which is segmented. And this is where it takes a little bit of discipline and extra effort. In your example, where we've got a construction manager who's seasoned, professional, understands what's going on, and you've got an amateur, one and done, needs handholding. Having segments on a site of like who we help and how we help can be really helpful. And then the other thing is we have to consider that a website is not meant to be the place that people go when they need us. It's also a destination to drive people there to help educate and serve.
Yes.
So if we have an example where there's construction managers who are seasoned, we might want to interview those folks and have a host on like how to be an awesome construction manager, like host a show on how to be an awesome construction manager and interview all these awesome construction managers and build relationships with them. And then that podcast is hosted on your website. People listen to your podcast all over the place because they're construction managers and they now are associating you with best practices.
Yeah.
In the example of a first-time amateur buyer who might be an owner of a business but has never had to hire for what we're talking about, we can use advertising done right to let people know that there is a better way to hire commercial contractors. And if they're in the market for thinking they need to hire one, they should probably come learn about how to do it through these guides, these steps, these videos, this supporting resources to help educate them up. And the thing is, when you look at most folks, I mean, the seasoned person is going to inquire way in advance. Like they understand what's up. They need to talk to somebody before an RFP maybe gets done, or maybe they have to do it. And there's years in planning and development that have to occur. And the owner, or the amateur might be thinking about it for a long time, but they reach out like too late in a lot of cases. And then it just delays things. So it's not like it's too late forever, but it's just too late for what they had in mind. Knowing that a lot of people are in your market, but not ready to buy, can change the way we approach a market.
Right.
Because a lot of people are trying to figure out how to get the guy that's going to make a decision now.
Right.
Or in the next 12 months. But there could be people planning a construction project for 5 years. And they're in it. It's in their head. It's on their mind. They're worried about it. They're hoping about it. They're pumped. They're excited. They're nervous. And we're not doing anything necessarily to have them see something about how they're in that state and how we can make it so that it can be a lot easier for them if they avoid these pitfalls or listen to the show or watch this video series.
So then obviously one must define one's niche to an extent. I think one of the things that is fascinating about marketing is that the best marketing attracts, but also repels.
Yeah.
And one of the nervous points that people have when marketing is that they fear that if they're too specific, they will miss out on potential leads. And the counter to that is, even if you do choose to be specific, there will be other leads that come in by virtue of that specificity, even if it's not speaking to people directly. Is that true?
The way people feel is true. Like what your observation of how people are nervous to narrow.
Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah, we see it. We push a lot of our clients to narrow. However, I do believe there is a bit of a genius of the and. And one of the things a lot of people forget, there's two kind of pieces here. The first one is who you go after isn't necessarily everybody you work with.
Yes.
Which is kind of, I think, what you're saying.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And so like we help landscape entrepreneurs get more deals, and I can go into the brass tacks of it all, but that's essentially the case. When a kitchen contractor or entrepreneur comes to us and says, "Can you help?" I'm like, "Let me ask you a few questions." I'm like, "Yeah, we can help you. Your business model is so adjacent to what we're doing. Our system works for actually any business, but because the team has to systematically do it,
yes,
it fits."
Yes.
And that's the second piece, is that niching actually creates operational profit and scale.
Yes.
Because we're not trying to solve Rubik's Cubes all the time. Now, if you're in the business of solving Rubik's Cubes, then that's your business and that's a niche.
Yep. Yeah, I get that. So then you mentioned strategy earlier.
Yep.
And, there's tomes written about strategy.
Yeah.
Give me your definition of the word strategy.
Okay, I've got a big one I'm not going to use for today. For the sake of this conversation, I'm going to say strategy is positioning. Positioning in a marketplace, from my point of view, can happen in one of two ways. There are a couple more, but for the sake of the conversation and making it tangible, there's a vertical position and there's a horizontal position.
Okay.
A vertical position is I am everything to this type of business, this type of industry.
Yep.
When it comes to all things airports, I'm everything to airports. And that's maintenance, it's delivery of materials, it's construction, it's planning, it's permitting, it's whatever it is. I know the FAA better than they do. I'm vertically niched in airports. And I can go do airports all over certain geography. Or I'm horizontally positioned. We supply the biggest cranes. We're the biggest crane supplier, or we build the biggest cranes for projects.
Sure.
It's industry agnostic.
Yep.
It's a solution for people that need to put shit up on high places.
Yep.
And so if we get clear on, well, one, are we going to go vertical in our niching or are we going to go horizontal? That's a big strategic decision. And one of the ways you can mitigate the leap of faith on the nervous to narrow is to band into like 3 or 4 verticals or 3 or 4 horizontals, because you probably are doing a lot of variety of work today as you listen to this.
Yeah.
And then what we would say is, okay, well, what work are you most profitable on? What
Yes.
work happens that doesn't let you lose sleep at night? And what work happens that your team does really well?
Yes.
Those questions, and the sleep one you can actually replace with fun, because if they sleep well, regardless of the outcome, what's the most fun?
Yeah.
Those questions usually surface some stuff up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, let's start to gear the business around the lines of business that check those 3 boxes.
So profit, stress, and ability to execute.
Deliver without you.
What do you mean by deliver without you?
The owner.
Okay.
A fundamental approach in our systems is to make businesses less owner dependent.
Yep.
And Michael Gerber, you're probably well aware
Sure.
of who that man is. You know, he said, if your business depends on you, you don't own a business, you own a job, and you have the worst job in the world. Yeah, you have the worst job in the world because you work for a lunatic.
Yeah. So then it's interesting. You mentioned earlier, for instance, the idea of having a podcast. What are some, from a commercial construction perspective, one can think about white papers that you might put out, podcasts, videos.
Tell me about a white paper someone downloaded in the last 30 days that told you about the white paper they downloaded.
Yeah, nobody.
Is there a podcast that someone's referenced to you in the last 30 days?
Sure.
That's the difference.
Yeah. But again, from a marketing perspective, someone might say, I don't really care if they read the white paper or not. I just want their email address.
So the other thing with marketing, a lot of people forget, how you consume information and how you want people to consume information is inconsequential and actually just doesn't matter. How your customers consume information and the information that they want to consume is what matters most.
Right.
And so what we want to do is make it accessible as possible and then measure. Podcasts are very popular and extremely easy to consume.
Yeah, they are.
They're actually easier to consume than a website, which is why we summarize websites in podcasts. So when someone lands on something, they can just listen to the website if they wanted to.
Yeah, they're even easier to consume than a video because
100%.
You can do it while you're driving. Yeah.
Or walking your dog or riding your bike, you name it. Podcasts are popular for a reason. And I bet you there's a podcast that isn't being done well in the space you're in that you could make better if you wanted to. It does take to your point, Eric, it does take a certain level of interview skill.
Right.
To make a podcast worthwhile.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So you go back to this idea of strategy and you talked about your vertical position or horizontal position, and that goes again to this idea of niche. How does the work of defining my niche help me as I am thinking through expanding my business?
I'm not sure if I understand the question, because the further we narrow, the more price control we have in our bid process.
Yeah. Okay, so in the world of construction, right, we have right client, right project, right location. And so let's say I'm in a particular geographic location and I have a clear idea of right project, perhaps right client, hopefully. I'm assuming if I'm clear on that, then I can take the step into the next geography, next door geography, maybe the next state or something like that. And I can do so with confidence because I have done the work of defining that vertical position or that horizontal position.
Yes. And you've got reps more so than most because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then you're building social proof. The technology adoption curve applies to, it's actually like a market adoption curve. There are people willing to take risk when they make decisions. And then as you go through a market, there's less people willing to take risk. And then there's a very big part of a market that doesn't want to take any risks.
Yeah.
They want to know with confidence it's going to work. And there's no way that I've ever understood outside of like Cialdini speaking, because he's like a Jedi, where you can convince somebody that because you think you're great, they will then believe you're great.
Right.
And so the biggest part of our market needs to hear from other people like them that you did what you said you would do.
Okay. So that then leads to the idea of testimonials. Is that what we're saying here?
100%.
Okay.
It's also how word of mouth works.
Yes. So then, do you have a particular method for getting testimonials from clients that are powerful and effective and genuine?
Yeah, for sure, man. First of all, Zoom is the easiest way to do it. There's 3 really easy questions that can turn into a larger conversation if you want them to. But the first question is, what problem were you having when you had to find somebody like us? What was your life like when you started to try to find somebody like us? Why did you pick us? And what's it been like working with us?
That's good.
It's super simple.
Yep.
And the videos should be like a minute.
Yeah, that's the thing, huh?
You could turn them into 10-minute videos, but make the ones people consume right away short.
And then as far as production value and things like that are concerned, again, someone's purchasing a $50 million project from you. Let's say they're contracting with you to build that project. You know, a 5-cent video perhaps is not the best way to go. So do I need to invest in videographers? Do I need to get really sophisticated with that? Or is it just good enough to be authentic and address the issues?
I think it's a bit of both. Like, good audio is important. Mm-hmm. Decent lighting is important. Like if you're having these interviews and you're in front of a window on a sunny day and you look like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, it's probably not the best. So like there's extreme contrast of like poor quality.
Yeah.
You know, investing 10 grand in building a studio so that you can interview a few clients every once in a while is probably an extreme contrast.
Yeah.
But like what we're doing right now isn't a crazy investment. You know, we're on Riverside, which helps with a bunch of different audio and visual and editing components. It's not crazy expensive. And then good audio and some decent lighting. But actually using Zoom, like if you want to get into it, you use Riverside. I think it's a great platform. Highly recommend it. If you're listening to this, check it out. Zoom though can work.
Yeah, it can. It can.
Just if you're going to use Zoom, make sure you jack on the HD settings so it doesn't look all pixelated and shitty.
All right, quick break to talk about my book, Construction Genius. This is what I want you to do. Go to Amazon, search for the book, read all of the 5-star reviews, because there's a ton of them. Over 50 to be precise. And the reason I want you to read them is because real people wrote those reviews who've actually read the book. And it'll give you an idea of why you should go and buy a copy right now on Amazon. And here's the deal. If you purchase 10 or more copies for your company, and then send me an email, eric@constructiongenius.com, I'll come in via Zoom and do a 1-hour Q&A and a bonus training session with your team at no charge. I normally charge $4,500 for an hour of my time. And again, for you, I'll do it at no charge if you buy 10 or more copies of my book. And the reason you should buy it is all in the title. It's effective, hands-on, practical, simple, no BS, leadership, strategy, sales, and marketing advice for construction companies. So if you're in the construction industry, this book is for you. So you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it on Audible in the audio version as well, narrated by yours truly. And I know you'll really enjoy it. So go out and get the book. And now back to the interview.
Going back to this idea of the website, how much thought and consideration do I need to give around things like color and layout and what I'm seeking to communicate through that aspect of structuring my website?
I'm not really the guy to answer that because I believe that the Nike swoosh is considered one of the most iconic brands. And as a logo, it's put on a pedestal.
Yep.
The logo didn't make Nike great. Nike made really good shoes for a long time. That made the logo really good.
Yes.
So kind of like the question with the audio visual production value, I think if a logo is good enough, you can make it great by being an epic company.
Yes.
Now, there are some crappy design ideas. Like if you use Comic Sans with pink and brown on a website, it's going to look bad.
Right.
And it'll actually, like people are like, ugh. So it's kind of the same thing, that extreme contrast. You know, spending $100,000 to refine typography, vocabulary, and color is probably extreme too much. Comic Sans on pink and brown is bad. So I think with somebody, if they have a little bit of passion and care, can help articulate color schemes and fonts. And there's some pretty simple principles if you look online. I think if you stay in line with, will be enough.
Now, I think this is very important because I know many people in my audience will have marketing companies approach them with these complex pitches for reinventing their brand, quote unquote.
Sure.
And those complex pitches often involve
mental masturbation.
And high 6-figure investments. But I think what's interesting, if we go back to this idea of making a promise and then delivering on the promise, that idea of delivering on the promise then speaks to how everything that you do in your business is actually an act of marketing.
Bingo.
Tell us more about that.
I completely agree with it.
Yeah, give us your perspective on that.
So if I make a promise that we're the best bridge builders in North America, and we only build bridges 10% of the time, and half of my staff have never built a bridge, when someone experiences the promise that they're expecting, it's going to be bad. And internally, there isn't training to support the best bridges in the world. There isn't any type of thought leadership around best bridges. There's no constant communication about the best bridges. This is just again, I'm using contrast to create example using the example to create contrast. If you consider that idea, everything's about bridges. And now because everything's about bridges, we're going to teach about bridges. We're going to learn about bridges. We're going to go to bridge conferences. We're going to have bridges in our office. We're going to build like team building exercises around bridges. It's going to be our culture of bridges. That company will be better at bridges over time, even if their team isn't as talented. And one of the things that I find really fascinating about systematic building in organizational and human environments is that, before I get into that, let's just preface it. There's a lot of organizations that lose a lot of value when a key person leaves. So they have a really strong Rolodex network. They have a skill set or vision for design. They understand the nuance of engineering and the region, whatever it is. There's a skill set that's locked in a human, and when they leave, it hurts the company. Niching gets not rid of that, but it minimizes the risk because there becomes more organizational value. The organization does everything this way. We all do it this way. And so when someone comes in with a skill set like that, unicorn, they can add value to the systems process, not their process. And this is all building back on systematic building of businesses to help get owners out of it. And the idea is, how can we build these organizations to help ordinary people do extraordinary things? We, for ourselves, trying to Rubik's Cube, without bringing in Rubik's Cube solvers as a group, which is a cool business in itself. Like, that's a lot of fun and can make a lot of money. It's really difficult to build something that can scale with simplicity if we're doing different things all the time.
That's very interesting.
Think about the last time you promoted someone into a leadership role and it failed. Why did it fail? I can tell you one reason. People know how to build projects, but they don't know how to build and lead teams of people. Construction comes with its challenges that only insiders truly understand. Generic leadership training doesn't cut it. You need a program to train your leaders built specifically for construction professionals led by an industry expert. And my online course, The Shift, is exactly that course. It has 5 modules. It'll teach your people how to control their calendars and reduce stress and embrace chaos and accomplish their critical tasks. It will teach them the 3 essential messages they have to communicate every day in order to motivate and lead their team effectively. It'll show them how to build and lead a high-performing team, give them a framework for running effective meetings so they'll be able to solve problems in less than an hour, and also give them a higher perspective on their leadership that will enable them to work on the business and on their teams and not get stuck in the weeds micromanaging. So go out to my website, theshift.constructiongenius.com, read all about the course, and then enroll yourself and your leaders in the course, and I guarantee that it will transform your leadership. If it does not, you take the whole course and you didn't get benefit from it, you just send me an email, eric@constructiongenius.com, and I will cheerfully refund you 100% of your money. I'm really confident this course will transform your leadership. So again, go out to the website, theshift.constructiongenius.com, learn more about the course, and start taking it today.
I'd like to go back to this idea of the testimonial and specifically thinking through how a testimonial can not only help a potential client get a comfort level sufficient to contact me or to want to work with me. How does a testimonial work in terms of me understanding what it is that I need to make a promise about and what promise I need to actually deliver on?
Well, that's actually a really cool question. If you have a company with hundreds of Google reviews, then you could easily take them all and summarize them to get a common theme or sentiment of what customers value. If you don't have hundreds of Google reviews, because it's just not been a focus and you only work with maybe 5 or 6 clients a year and they're massive, whatever, then we just got to ask them. And this is the customer side of niching and orienting the company. Because it's like, when you ask the testimonial about what problem were you having and why did you pick us and what was it like working with us, if you do that interview over 50, 60 times, there's going to be themes of what people care about. And then as a business, we get to decide, do we care and want to focus and double down on those themes? to make our business more valuable to the people we love working with? Or are we going to keep doing what we're doing and we're just happy that's an outcome? So I think that customer feedback is like a really, really helpful and important piece if you were to consider it intentionally.
And I think it's interesting because what you'll find if you do a detailed dive into why your customers are working with you and the things that they're looking for, you'll be surprised many times because the way they perceive your services are not the way that you perceive the services.
Yeah, like some people, especially in construction, never think that it's not going to get built. They're like, if we hire somebody and we're spending the money, this thing will be built. It will come to life at some point. So like the idea of it not coming to life isn't really a consideration. Seamless, lack of friction, no bumps in the road is like, oh, like how is this going to mess up my life if I do this thing and I got to get involved? But if you look at a lot of stuff, it's like we build stuff. We build all these things. We build. Everybody says we build things. It's kind of a given.
Yeah, it's interesting. It always strikes me. I remember one time interviewing someone about the services that I provide, and it seems obvious in retrospect, but it stunned me at the time. It says, Eric, he said to me, Eric, you give me a sense of confidence. And I never thought of that word specifically in terms of the services I offer. But in retrospect, once he used that word, I could see it then all the time in my interactions with my clients. And I think the same is true if you take the time to interview your clients regarding the construction services you provide. You'll definitely come across some things that surprise you. But if you can use that language in the way that you structure your website specifically, then that will really help in terms of the ability of the website to communicate clearly with your clients.
Yeah, and the idea, kind of full circle on that point, is when someone visits your website, you want them to see themselves.
It's very interesting because you go to a lot of websites and you might get these sort of drone shots of a project in process. And I guess if you're hiring me for the process, that's fine, but aren't you hiring me for the end result and the experience as opposed to, the cool drone shot?
Yeah, well, not most. I mean, 99.9 out of 100. Look at me. Look what we've done. Look what we're about. Look at our team. This is why we're good. It's all about me. And customers don't care about you yet.
Yep.
They care about two things and two things alone. One is accomplishing their goals and the other one is solving their problem.
Yeah.
And most sites aren't designed to adhere to that idea and meet people where they are.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you don't want to shy away from, because you can structure your website in such a way that it's not, I think some people will be hearing what you just said right there and they'll be thinking, well, then my website is going to sound too salesy. I mean, I'm not going to have a buy here button on my website or something like that. And it doesn't have to be like that. You can do this elegantly and in a sophisticated way and in a way that's meaningful to your clients. You just have to put yourself in their shoes and think through their eyes as opposed to your own.
Exactly. And a lot of the hiccups or, people trip on the common problems of their customers because they work with a lot of different customers that have a lot of different problems. And so that's where we're going back to the idea of like, okay, you have an umbrella solution or an umbrella problem you solve, and then segment into, it could be 7 segments. It could be 10 if it needs to be. It might only be 3. And then we have to do the work to understand the common problems within those segments and then help people go to those resources and see themselves so that they want to trust you. The reason we want them to see themselves is because they'll say, these people get me. And it's all built. This is all like fundamental human stuff. This isn't about marketing.
Yes, it is.
People will listen to you if they like you. They'll buy from you if they trust you.
Yes.
People trust people like them. If you've traveled anywhere in the world and you meet somebody from your hometown, you establish a form of trust immediately and for no reason at all, except for they understand you a bit more than a stranger that didn't grow up where you are, even if they're a serial murderer.
Yep.
And then people hate to be sold, they love to buy.
Right.
So how do we create an environment of trust? We can't say trust me because that elicits sleazy used something salesperson. I think used car salespeople always get a bad rap. And so then how do we build an environment of trust? We have to demonstrate trust. We cannot say trust. We have to demonstrate trust. Trust is built with testimonials, Google reviews, and writing in a style that makes them see themselves when they visit you.
Yeah, that's very important there. Okay, so then we've talked about marketing in terms of making a promise, defining a promise. We've talked about strategy in terms of positioning from either a vertical or a horizontal point of view. We've talked about speaking in the voice of the client to the client. It's a lot of information. There's a lot of possibilities, different ways that we could go here. Rob, what would be one or two immediate first steps someone could take if they're thinking, I know my marketing needs to dial in a little bit. I would like my website to be more about them than it is about me. What first steps should someone take as a result of listening to today's discussion?
A very tactical step you can do is download a sales by customer summary from the last 24 months.
Okay.
It'll show you, it depends on your level of reporting, but for the sake of this and being simple, it just shows revenue by client over 24 months. And then you sort it in descending order. So the biggest customers at the top, you take that into a CSV or Google Sheet or Excel.
Yeah.
And you add a couple columns, and it's those 3 columns. What's the gross margin as a percentage? Or you can just label it 1, 2, 3. 3 is great, 1 sucks, 2 is neutral. The next column is, did I lose sleep at night, or is it fun? And then you can grade it however you want. Again, 1, 2, 3. 3 is no sleep loss, or 3 is a lot of fun, however you frame it.
Yeah.
And then can the team do it without me? 1, 2, 3. And then you look at the whole customer list and you look at all the high scores and you go, are there commonalities in segments here? And do we want to go down this road?
It's beautiful. And then the next step would be then to talk to those people.
Oh, hands down. If you decide you want to go down the road, there's nothing better than speaking to the customer.
Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent. And then based on that, create your marketing, create your podcasts, whatever the case is, your copy on your website around those issues with them at the center, as opposed to yourself at the center.
Yeah, exactly. And we use a framework called problem, agitation, solution, conversion.
Yep.
These are the problems you're probably experiencing. This is why those problems suck for your life if they don't get addressed. And here's how we solve those problems and what we've done for other people. Get this resource, speak to somebody, listen to the podcast. Depending on where people are, different calls to action. But we have to remember that there are people trying to find a partner. And if they don't know a better one exists, they might stay with a shit one they have. And so this website is just this beautiful little microcosm of getting our strategy right.
Yes. Let me put a little pin in that with the last thing that you said there about conversion. And what that means is that you should have on your website something that people can do as a result of interacting with your information. And hopefully that thing that they can do would bring them into closer contact with you in one way or another. And so you have to think very seriously about what is the next step you want people to take as a result of coming to your website.
Yeah. And then keep in mind, for the sake of simplicity, there are 3 types of people that come to your website, regardless of role. People that have a problem and have entered the market but are early. People that are looking for a solution. They're in the market. They've been there for some time and now they're doing research to solve the problem. And people that want a solution provider. So they're trying to figure out who to hire.
Yes.
The largest part of that market is people with a problem. The next largest segment is the people trying to find a solution. And the smallest part of the market, which is 3 out of 100 people or less than that in this instance, are people looking to hire. So get a quote as a call to action on a commercial landscape or a commercial construction website is a bad idea.
Yes.
We probably want to invite people to a thing that's less than a sales call.
Yes.
I don't want a sales call. I'm trying to find a $50 million contractor here.
Yeah.
So we're going to put on a monthly live event online that goes through the 7 most common pitfalls of commercial construction.
Very good.
And you can register for free.
Yep. And again, let me just say to the people listening, you can absolutely do what Rob just told you to do. You have people in-house who are sufficiently versed in what it is that you do to put together a webinar, a live event that would be of tremendous value to your audience.
In spades.
Yeah. Excellent. This is excellent, Rob. Please tell us a little bit more about your company, how people can get in touch with you if they'd like to.
Yeah, go to intriguemedia.com. If you want to learn more about us, go to the resources section, listen to our podcast, download our guides to help you improve sales and marketing. We are niched in landscape, so we look at residential and commercial landscape entrepreneurs, typically between, say, $3 and $10 million and want to grow from there in terms of annual revenue.
Yep.
I would say to anybody listening to this, though, the principles that we shared today and the ones that we use with our clients are universal.
Yes, they are.
And so you can take, when it's anytime it says landscape entrepreneur, you just put commercial construction entrepreneur and it's all the same. The difference is it's on the execution with an entire system and team that is behind it. But I would say if you want to check it out, go there. LinkedIn is great. Instagram, I am Rob Murray if you want to follow.
Excellent. We will have links in the show notes to everything there. Rob, you're in Toronto, is that right?
I mean, for the sake of North America, yes, but I live in like the boons out in the woods on a lake, an hour and a half northwest of Toronto.
Okay, so if I am in Toronto, what's the one restaurant I have to go to?
Oh, the CN Tower.
What?
The CN Tower. So it's
CN Tower.
Yeah, it's like the largest. It's got a revolving restaurant at the top.
Nice.
I'd say the food is a 7 out of 10, but the experience is an 11.
Okay. All right. So have correct expectations for the food, but for the experience, you definitely want to go there, and we will have a link in the show notes to CN Tower.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us, Rob.
Appreciate it, Eric. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with Rob Murray. Links in the show notes for getting in contact with Rob. Lots of killer takeaways today. So if you're into marketing, and you should be, you've learned a lot, feel free to share this episode with other people that would benefit from the insights, and also give us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity, and to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.